Bring both sides together this morning and talk about it. Oklahoma Republican James Lankford is on the Budget Committee. Sir, good morning to you. And also Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar is a Democrat. And, sir, welcome to you as well. Gentlemen, I don't know. Representative Lankford, you can start here. Is this a lost year? Or what can you guys agree on?
There's a lot that we can agree on. We can start by agreeing on that we've got to get a budget from the House and the Senate. The House has produced a budget. The Senate has failed to produce a budget. It's hard to be able to plan long term when you don't even have the other side even putting out a budget, and that's from the Senate side of it. And really the biggest issue is not just $1 trillion deficit, it's that there's no plan to make it stop. And we've got to first start and say, let's get a plan to get out of this, and we've got to find some agreements in the House and the Senate to do that.
Yeah, so you're squarely pointing the finger at Democrats in the Senate. and also the White House with a Democratic president. What about that, Representative Cuellar?
Certainly if you look at the history of the deficit spending, it's been added by both Democrats and Republicans. In fact, between 2001 and 2008, we added $5 trillion to the federal deficit. So it's been added by both Democrats and Republicans. The bad thing is, and I think James would agree with me, is that both parties are waiting till after the November election to see who gets a better leverage to work on this. I think we ought to start working it now.
Then it would be a lost year, right?
Well, I hope it's not a lost year because we've got a long way to go on that. Yeah, well, in the acceleration that's happened in the last 8 years of the presidency, there was $5 trillion in debt. Now in the first 4 years, we've got $5 trillion in debt. And so it's this rapid acceleration where the highest debt during the Bush administration was about $450 billion. Now we haven't had one even under $1 trillion in this administration. We've got to find a way to get this to stop.
I think about what Paul Ryan told Chris Wallace on Sunday, Representative Cuellar. He said what we're giving the American people is a future of debt, doubt, and decline.
Right, and the other thing is we got to keep in mind that in December of 2008, we were losing 750,000 jobs. This last month, we created 200,000 jobs. One of the ways is that we ought to grow the economy. By growing the economy, we'll get more revenues. Bottom line is we have a $3.5 trillion budget, roughly, and the revenues coming in is 2.1, and we got to make some structural changes on both sides.
Well, some structural changes. The American people would argue that this has to be significant. I mean, you guys are standing right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
What would you agree on?
Well, first of all, don't talk about football because UT and Oklahoma are in different.
Texas OU is not a good place to talk about it. But I can tell you there's a lot of things that we do agree on. One is getting the economy moving. Now, the method of how to do that, whether that's government spending or encouraging private spending, that may be a little bit different. But we have to get the economy going. We've lost a lot of revenue, not because tax rates have changed, but because the economy is so low. So many people are unemployed, they're not paying taxes. So we have to have more people employed and paying taxes to be able to have the revenue increase.
Why grow your tax revenue when the government's growing at the rate that it is?
Why don't you slow down the growth
of government? Can you guys agree on that?
Yeah, we certainly agree on that. But keep one thing is when you look at federal employees that we have right now, it's the lowest that we've had since World War II. So I agree. We got to make sure that we keep the spending down, and that's why I support the balanced budget amendment. We got to make sure we also have a way to reduce the deficit, and it's got to be done now, not after the election. Why do we have to wait? We ought to sit down as Democrats and Republicans to work it out.
Representative Lankford says it's not the debt that's the big deal. It's the fact that that no one will fix the debt.
Right, and that is the big issue. We'll have a budget proposal coming out of the House in about the next month and a half. We'll put another major proposal out there and say, here's how we get on top of this. This is a mortgage, not a car payment.
Is that going to go anywhere, though?
Well, we're going to look and see. The Senate has to produce a budget as well. We can do our part at this point, but I can't cross over the other side of the hill and make them do their part. We've got to do ours.
I'll give your colleague the final word then.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. The other thing we got to keep in mind is we did cut $1 trillion already. The Sequestration Committee, both made up of Democrats and Republicans, House members and senators, couldn't come up with it. We got to keep cutting, but we got to do it in a smart way to cut and set priorities as to what's important to us and make sure we grow our economy.
Well, there is a number that's staring us all in the face, and we can't escape it. $15.3 trillion. That is where we are today.
We got to get out.
Henry Cuellar, thank you. James Lankford, thank you as well on the Hill today. Martha.